Welcome to Blessed Be the Breakdown, the podcast where I unpack The Handmaid's Tale and uncover the real-world parallels that make it all the more terrifying. Today, we're digging into Season 6, Episode 7. As always, this episode is full of spoilers, so if you haven't watched yet, I'd recommend doing that and then coming back. Alright, let's get into it. Episode 7, Shattered. This episode picks up right where we left off, with June and Nick in the closet. At the same time, we see the guards bursting in through the dressing room doors at Jezebel's, rounding up these poor women for execution by gunfire. For a moment, we see Janine begging them not to hurt the girls, and it feels like this might be the end of the road for her. Just as the guard is about to fire, Janine is pulled out of the lineup. Someone has clearly called for her to be spared. I did not expect to start this episode crying, but once those guards opened fire, there was no holding it in. We've seen a lot of executions and horrifying moments in this show, but watching those women die in the bathroom at Jezebel's really ranks high on the list of the most devastating. I mean, thankfully Janine is being saved, but where is she being taken and who saved her? I have a sneaking suspicion of who it is, and I really hope it's not who I think, but I guess we'll see. Back at Serena's, Nick and June finally emerge from the closet after Serena and Wharton leave for a walk. Nick tells June that Janine was taken, and he promises to find out where she is. He also explains to June, or tries to explain, that while he knew Wharton wanted Jezebel shut down, he never specifically told Wharton that it was the women there who were planning the attack on the commanders. June then asks the million-dollar question, are they dead? Nick confirms they are. He didn't think Wharton would go that far, but he clearly did. June, clearly heartbroken and furious, tells Nick to take her back to the border. Just before they arrive, she asks Nick to stop the car, so that way she can walk the rest of the way. She clearly can't stand to even be near Nick in that moment, and walking is the only way she can take back a shred of control. And it's here that Nick finally says what most of the audience, well, at least I have been thinking all along. He finally tells her, you know, you never cared what I did when it helped you. Then he brings up the fact that he killed those two guardians to protect her, Luke, and Moira. He says, those men were just doing their jobs. One of them was 19 years old. He is still at odds with himself over what he did to the guardians, especially because, like he said, they were just doing their jobs. And I think he is just really having trouble with his morals and where he lands at this point. And it's in this moment that we kind of realize we've never officially known what side Nick is on. Is he with Mayday? Is he with Gilead? Because up until now, we've only ever seen him on June's side. And here, he clearly tells her that she tends to forget he's a commander in Gilead unless it benefits her. When she pushes back, saying she never pretended not to know what he was, Nick responds in disagreement to June by telling her she never faced it and now she has to. As a Nick and June fan, I've always seen him as someone caught between two worlds, playing both sides. I thought I had a clear sense of who he was, but in this moment when he tells her she never faced who he really is, I realized that I never did either, not fully at least. And after seeing and reading some cast and writer interviews, this was clearly intentional. I remember reading an interview with The Hollywood Reporter where one of the writers was saying, we as viewers are basically blind to Nick's wrongdoing, and they haven't really shown us this part of Nick. So it's easy for us as viewers to forget all the bad he has done to get to where he is now. In this interview, I also saw a portion with Elizabeth Moss where she seemingly alluded to the fact that June can't go back or unsee Nick's true colors now, so I don't know how hopeful I am for a Nick and June reunion in the future, but we will see. I really hope they give us one though. June and Nick are just so interesting because they're not clear-cut heroes or villains, they're complicated people trying to survive in a messed up world. Both have done things that aren't completely right or wrong, often because they have no other choice. Living under Gilead's control has messed with their sense of right and wrong, and they've both had to make tough calls just to stay alive. What makes them feel real is how they adapt. They play the game, using their relationships and sometimes going against their own values to get by. That is why it feels a bit unfair when June gets mad at Nick for doing what he needs to do to survive. She's made some pretty extreme choices herself. Their relationship shows how hard it is to stay loyal to someone when you're both just trying to make it through a brutal system. The conversation ends with June accusing Nick of giving up the women at Jezebel's to save himself. Nick doesn't deny it. Instead, he responds, "We all want to save ourselves. We're fucking human." It's raw, honest, and forces June to confront a truth she's been avoiding. June finally tells Nick, "You're just like them." And Nick fires back with, "And you love me. So what does that make you?" June doesn't answer. She just walks away and essentially tells him to leave her alone. In this moment, it feels like June is beginning to realize she's been an enabler of sorts. By choosing to see only the version of Nick that served her, she's ignoring how messy and how morally complicated their relationship really is. It's a turning point for both of them, and they're forced to reckon with who they really are and what they've allowed in each other. This episode is packed with intense revelations, and the very next scene is no exception. We see Aunt Lydia at Jezebel's grappling with the aftermath of what has happened to her girls. She's holding the drawing that Lawrence gave to Janine, and as we all know, Janine was her special girl, so this is clearly breaking her heart, as she doesn't know Janine was spared yet. Literally right after, we're with June as she walks into the Mayday HQ, where everyone has already heard about the massacre at Jezebel's. When Luke approaches her, he tells her that they don't know how the plan was discovered, but June lets him know that it was Nick who informed them. Luke is enraged at this point, and when he learns that it was June who told Nick, he can't believe it. I mean, Luke is truly baffled that June ever thought Nick could be trusted with such crucial information. He quickly points out that Nick is a commander in Gilead, something Nick himself had said earlier, and the only thing Nick has ever cared about is June. And man, June is really getting a bucket of truth for breakfast and a bucket of truth for lunch. Like, this girl is having a day. And Luke is letting out all his frustrations. June has seen Nick as some sort of hero, but Luke knows better. And he finally tells her that. He lets out all his resentment, accusing June of pining for Nick ever since she got back. It's clear that June thought she'd been hiding her feelings for Nick from Luke, but this moment shatters that illusion. She can't pretend anymore. Not about her feelings for Nick, and not about him being the good guy she once believed him to be. When June confesses, "I don't know what to do," Luke responds, "Don't be in love with a fucking Nazi." It's the brutal truth. One that her mom even told her, in I think it was the first or second episode, her mom called Nick a Nazi. And June's been avoiding the truth. And in that moment, you can feel her world starting to crumble. She's caught once again between the two men in her life, each representing a different version of reality, and she's struggling to reconcile her love and loyalty for Nick with the harsh truth of who he really is. It's a love triangle turned existential crisis, and June is no longer able to pretend that she can hold on to both illusions, the one of Nick as a hero and the one of her perfect relationship with Luke. After the tension between June and Luke, we shift back to New Bethlehem, where we find a clearly conflicted and frustrated Nick. Rita pays him a visit, checking in to see if June made it out safely. Nick confirms that she did, and Rita, ever the optimist, tries to be supportive, reassuring him that he and June will see each other again someday. But Nick's response is heavy with defeat. He tells her they probably won't, because June now sees him as a monster. Rita pushes back, gently reminding him that she's known him for a long time and that he's a good man. But Nick shuts that down, saying, "Not without her." Rita, unaware of what exactly went down between him and June, tries to reconnect. She reminds him that they were friends before June came into the picture. But instead of engaging, Nick basically snaps, telling her they were never friends. They were just scared of each other. It's a cruel thing to say, especially to someone like Rita. Still, Rita stands her ground. She admits that maybe that was true in the past, but not anymore. Nick, clearly spiraling, accuses her of only being kind because she wants his help getting her family out. And Rita tells him, "Don't you want to be a man who does the right thing?" But Nick is just bitter and says he doesn't get to have what he wants. When Rita says she's counting on him, he coldly responds that in Gilead, the only person you can count on is yourself. It's in this moment that Rita truly sees Nick and New Bethlehem for what they are. Whatever promises of reform or safety this place held, they've just been stripped away. In that line, Nick reveals a brutal truth. New Bethlehem isn't a reformed Gilead. It's just Gilead with better PR. We cut back to Serena, and the wives have thrown her a bridal shower. but the atmosphere is very cold and judgmental. They're still as rude and fake as ever, smiling while throwing jabs, and of course Naomi is leading the charge. Serena starts talking about her plans for New Bethlehem, hoping to paint it as something new and better, but the wives immediately dismiss it as radical and reckless. She explains to them that there won't be handmaids living there, only those who might work in the fertility center after retirement, but they just don't care. And they're clearly not interested in changing anything. Naomi even throws in a pointed remark saying that she's surprised to hear Serena caring so much about the handmaids. It's a dig at her past, and it shows just how little these women care about the people Gilead harms. Serena is clearly trying to make progress, but she's alone in the room. After the shower, we see her talking to Wharton about how the wives basically dismissed their plans, and it seems like their husbands aren't on board either. Serena suggests that a proper Gilead wedding might remind everyone that they're dealing with High Commander Wharton and his soon-to-be wife. Serena immediately starts planning. As they're discussing who should attend, Wharton mentions that the handmaids should be there too. It wouldn't be a real Gilead wedding without them. This catches Serena off guard. She clearly wasn't expecting that, and it forces her to once again face the uncomfortable reality of the systems she's still a part of, no matter how much she tries to reshape it. We switch over to Aunt Lydia arriving at the Red Center, where we meet Aunt Phoebe. She comes in to tell a clearly distraught Aunt Lydia that Janine is alive and will now be placed as a handmaid for Commander Bell. It was he who arranged for her release. I honestly feel so bad for Janine. At this point, it feels like being left at Jezebel's might have been kinder than being sent to Commander Bell's. Back at Mayday HQ, June and Moira have a real, honest conversation about Nick. Surprisingly, Moira kinda sticks up for him. She reminds June that Nick never gave her a reason not to trust him. He was kind, and he helped her and so many others survive, including herself. June says that doesn't justify anything, but Moira gently says no, it doesn't. But it does make it more understandable. She even admits that if she were in the same position as June, she might have made the same choices. Then the conversation lightens a bit. Moira tries to bring some humor into the moment, saying she's serious. If the commander were hot enough, she might have ended up in the same kind of situation. She starts joking about celebrity crushes like Angelina Jolie and Rihanna, and June even says nobody's hotter than Rihanna. It was just a funny turn of events in one of those really friend-to-friend chats that you would have with your best friend, and it added a little humanity back into everything they're dealing with. June goes to speak with Luke, and it's clear the people at Mayday are upset. Most are avoiding her completely. On her way to Luke, she tries to talk to Ellen, and she just basically shuts her down and says no. Then we get to the heart-to-heart between June and Luke, where everything is laid on the table. June tells him she doesn't want pity, and she doesn't want him to stay with her out of guilt. She says she wants him to be happy, and to be with someone who truly deserves him. At this point, it seems like one of them is about to walk away for good. But when she asks Luke what he wants, he said he should want to leave her, but he can't. And June admits that she can't leave him either. Things get even more raw when she asks if Hannah is the only reason they're still together. Luke says no, she's not the only reason. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm not really feeling like there's a genuine, good connection between them anymore. He might be the healthier and more stable choice on paper, but something just feels off. They seem like two people who care deeply about each other, but don't quite fit anymore. Maybe the next few episodes will change that, but for now, they feel emotionally out of sync. Back in Gilead, we see Aunt Lydia arrive at Commander Bell's to bring Janine her red cloak. When she asks to see Janine, Belle coldly shuts her down, and also mentions that Janine won't be attending the wedding. Lydia clearly senses something is wrong, and as she is walking away, she spots Janine through a window, bruised and being dragged away by Belle's wife. It's gut-wrenching. Belle makes even the worst Gilead commanders look decent by comparison. Poor Janine just keeps getting thrown into the most horrific situations, and it's so heartbreaking to watch. After everything with Luke and the growing tension at Mayday, we see June quietly packing up to leave. It's obvious she doesn't feel welcome anymore. The silence, the stares, the way everyone is avoiding her. But just as she's gathering her things, she sees Lawrence pull up with Tuello. Lawrence, now with nothing to lose, is finally stepping directly into Mayday's plans. In true Lawrence fashion, he doesn't hold back. He immediately brings up Nick, saying he always thought June was an idiot for trusting him. June tries to push back, pointing out that he trusted Nick too, but Lawrence says he was smart about it. He was selective with what he shared and didn't let Nick's smoldering gaze cloud his judgment. Their conversation shifts towards the bigger picture. Lawrence wants June to help rally the troops for another shot at Gilead, but June says that chapter has ended for her. In an attempt to pique her interest, Lawrence mentions Serena's wedding, but this does not work. This does not reignite June's fire to fight. He also lets June know that Janine is now with Commander Bell as his handmaid. But none of this information is changing her mind, and she starts to walk away, like she's really done for good. But then it clicks. The wedding. It's the perfect opportunity to hit them where it hurts. From this point on, everything moves fast. The team regroups, and the plan is set. June and Moira are back in the trunk of Lawrence's car. Lawrence meets up with Rita, who after her run-in with Nick, is fully ready to fight. She will use Serena's request for a cake as the perfect cover to poison the event, while the others will activate the bombs they previously planted. June and Moira's mission is to sneak back into the Red Center and arm the handmaids, because, as we know, the handmaids will be at the wedding. As they go over the plan, June delivers one of the episode's most cutting lines, referring to Serena. She says, "Her narcissism brought down one nation, and it's about to bring down another." Lawrence is now at the Red Center and meeting with Aunt Lydia. He's telling her that he's arranged a meeting for her with the Department of Human Relocation to discuss her new Bethlehem plan for the handmaids. That department definitely sounds made up, but ultimately Aunt Lydia agrees to go, even though she brings up the fact that she'll have to miss the Whartons' wedding, which is exactly the point. This is clearly a move to get her out of the way so she doesn't notice June and Moira have returned. As this conversation was happening, in a twist, Aunt Phoebe is outside and opens the trunk of Lawrence's car. And for a second, it looks like they're about to be caught. As June and Moira look at her, she states, "Let the revolution begin." And we see a smile sneak on their face, and we know that she is a part of the plan. She sneaks them into what seems to be a basement in the Red Center, and as they go over everything that's been set in motion, Aunt Phoebe informs them Janine isn't being allowed to attend the wedding, because of course Commander Bell won't let her go. But if there's one thing June is going to do, it's going to be trying to rescue Janine. So she immediately says she'll take care of it. So I can't wait to see what that means next episode. I'm wondering if she's going to try and get Nick to help her, or maybe they're really done. I don't know. Or who she's going to try and get to help her, because surely she's not going to sneak into Belle's house and steal her out of there. As Aunt Phoebe heads back upstairs, she runs into Aunt Lydia. She attempts to cover her tracks with a lie, but Aunt Lydia isn't really buying it. And she is clearly suspicious that something's going on, because we see it in her eyes. She's just looking in that hall, and I think she knows something's up. We end the episode with June and Moira waiting in the basement, rightfully a little nervous, more so Moira, I think. She tells June to say something leaderish, and June starts to pray, ending the prayer with, "And please, dear God, give us the strength to murder those goddamn motherfuckers." Moira follows up with a perfect, "Ah fucking men." And then boom. We end the episode with the song Barracuda by the Heart kicking in. Honestly, I need these episodes to be longer. If the last 3 episodes could be at least an hour long, that would be great, because these 30-something minute episodes are not doing it for me. I do appreciate that there was so much packed into this episode, because like I said before, I'd rather them give us too much than too little, especially with there only being 3 episodes left. Overall, I'm not loving the anti-Nick storyline, but I am loving that Lawrence, despite basically having no other choice, unless of course he wants to end up on the wall, is stepping in to help Mayday. I also really appreciate the honest conversation between Luke and June about their relationship. We've got 3 episodes left, and I'm really excited to see where everything goes from here, but I'm also really nervous to see where everything goes from here. Now let's get into some real-world parallels. This week, the Department of Homeland Security announced a new program offering undocumented immigrants a $1,000 stipend and travel assistance if they voluntarily leave the U.S. using the CBP Home app. This app, formerly known as CBP-1, was used to streamline cargo inspections originally for commercial trucking. The app has since evolved, first to help migrants schedule asylum appointments, and now to assist with voluntary self-deportation. Officials say this approach offers a more dignified and cost-effective alternative to formal deportation, which can cost the government an estimated $17,000 per person. Those who participate are deprioritized for ICE enforcement while they arrange travel, making the process appear more humane on the surface. But when we zoom out and think in terms of power and control, something The Handmaid's Tale explores so well, this shift raises red flags. In Gilead, control often comes dressed up as a choice. Similarly, many immigrants may see this program not as a real option, but as the only one available. When systems present pressured choices as freedom, we have to ask who's really benefiting. The repurposing of the CBP's app, originally built to inspect cargo, into a tool for managing human movement, also reflects how easily institutions can be reshaped to serve broader agendas. While we're not living in Gilead, we can see the patterns. When tech and policy blend into something that manages people rather than supports them, it's worth paying attention to. This week, Donald Trump called on House Republicans to consider expelling 2 Democratic lawmakers after they introduced an impeachment resolution against him. Posting on Truth Social, he criticized them harshly and suggested they be removed from Congress entirely. While it's highly unlikely such an expulsion would happen, especially given the political makeup of Congress and constitutional protections for dissent, the call itself is notable for its authoritarian tone. In The Handmaid's Tale, Gilead silences opposition by removing those who challenge the ruling class. While the US hasn't crossed that line, the idea of using political power to expel elected officials for exercising constitutional rights mirrors the kind of suppression we see in Gilead. When public pressure is used to delegitimize opposition rather than engage with it, it chips away at democratic norms, making it feel a little less fictional and a bit more familiar. The last parallel I have, and this may be old news to some, but it's new to me, back in February 2025, President Trump signed an executive order to establish the White House Faith Office within the Domestic Policy Council. The goal of this office is to assist faith-based organizations, community groups, and houses of worship in strengthening American families, promoting self-sufficiency, and protecting religious liberty. Now, on the surface, that all sounds like a good thing, supporting communities through nonprofit and spiritual outreach, but under Trump's leadership, there's concerns that this office may not be used in the broad, inclusive way its language suggests. Instead, critics argue it could serve as a vehicle for promoting Christian values specifically, while sidelining or ignoring other faiths. That concern leads me back to The Handmaid's Tale, where Gilead merges religion and government to the point where one interpretation of faith becomes law. While the US is far from that extreme, the idea of a federal office being used to advance one particular religious agenda raises flags. It's worth watching closely, not because faith has no place in public life, but because democracy only thrives when religious freedom applies equally to everyone. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so come chat with me on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. Thanks for hanging out with me for this breakdown. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a rating. It really helps more people find the podcast. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay sharp, and as always, blessed be the fight.